Hello, this is Brian O'Rourke. Thanks for joining me this week. So this week I just want to begin again with talking a little bit about the Book of Hope. I had introduced that in last week's video. And so this week I just wanted to again invite you to participate in this new idea. The idea is to share stories, to share pictures, poems, songs, whatever it might be that has given you strength in both past experiences and maybe right now in the present. And with those stories and poems and songs and pictures, I'd like to put together a book, hence the name, The Book of Hope, and share that with the community. And each week I'd like to maybe take a couple of those stories as submissions come in and share them on this YouTube channel as I do a short talk every week. So please feel free to give me a call or send me an email and ask me about those details so that you can be included. I thought today I might share a story from my own life that has given me strength and hope over the last 10 years or so. I was on a long journey myself in finding my career. I had been doing sales for about 10 years and was wrestling with exactly what I wanted to do. And I remember coming home and visiting my family, and I had just gotten a new job. At the time, I was doing sales, as I said, and I was working and had gotten a job at Wells Fargo Bank, being a business banker, working with businesses. And I was pretty excited about this. But I remember coming home, and again, it was my grandfather's birthday, and I came in and I shared with the family that I had gotten this new job and how excited I was about it. But I remember the look on my grandfather's face, and it was a look of, I wouldn't say exactly disappointment, but it was maybe a look of sadness, as I think he saw something, or at least a different path in my future that I hadn't quite figured out myself. And at that point, I continued with that work, but my grandfather died, and I was still left a little unsettled with this feeling of not getting the approval I might have wanted from him, or the recognition for finding that path. And I continued to struggle with my career and what I wanted to do. And then after a few years, I entered into the discernment process to become a priest. I had been attending All Saints Church in Pasadena, and my wife and I started taking what they call the Alpha Course. It's actually a course for new members. My wife had not been baptized, and she wanted to be baptized, and so she went through that class, and I went through it with her. And in the class, you write your spiritual autobiography. And I wrote my spiritual autobiography in that class. And during that one session, it was actually a small group, I read my autobiography, and I had been wrestling again with where I wanted to go in my career. And at the end of it, I got this sense, this epiphany, I would call it, that I was called to the priesthood. And my wife and I walked out of that small group, that small classroom together, and my wife looked at me before I had any time to tell her what I felt. And she said, "I'm going to be the wife of a minister." And I looked at her and said, "I got the same exact message. I am going to be a priest." And I started down that journey, and I started into the discernment process, and I wrestled with how that would change my career path and what I was going to do, and giving up this entrepreneurial spirit that I had of becoming a wealthy landowner and property mogul, and going down this path of becoming a priest and giving myself to that type of work, which initially sounded wonderful, but again was not harmonious with what I had originally set out in my life to do. And so one day on that journey, as I struggled with what I should move forward with, my career in sales or this journey in the priesthood. And I was coming up Orange, the road that comes from South Pass up into Pasadena. It's where they lined the floats up prior to the Rose Parade. And I was driving to work one day, and I remember coming over that hill and seeing the sun rising up over the mountains there, the San Gabriel Mountains, actually right behind where Monte Cedro is, and to the side there. And I remember getting this sense that my grandfather was present with me. I remember having this sense that this new path was the right path for me, that my grandfather, though having died and no longer physically being present, was spiritually present with me and acknowledging and affirming this new direction. And I often think back to that moment, that magical and mysterious moment where I felt that connection once again with my grandfather and felt his approval. And it's that has stayed with me and continues to stay with me as I journey forward on this path that has now led me to be a chaplain here at Monte Cedro. So it's these type of stories that I'd like to hear and I'd like us to share with one another. It's these type of stories that I know have given me strength, this story in particular, and I hope this story can give you strength. And I hope in our sharing ourselves in this way, we can strengthen each other. So today I also want to talk a little bit about our changing world around us, and in particular, our changing rituals, our changing schedules, all the things that we used to do, our waking up, our eating together, our going to shows and programs, our visiting with family, every single routine that we have had has completely changed. And so that often leads to our being unsettled and our uncomfortable and our being disoriented. So I just wanted us to talk for just a moment about that and connect with you on just looking at what has stayed the same and what has changed, because so much has changed, and look at how you might continue to embrace those traditions and practices that you can continue to embrace, and then maybe look at new practices that you have taken on. I know for some of us, we have a routine when we get up, a routine of waking up, maybe praying, maybe having a cup of coffee, maybe having breakfast, maybe having a conversation with a friend or family member or a spouse, whatever that might be. And that might continue to stay in some regular fashion in our lives. However, when it comes to our interacting and connecting with each other, I think that has changed drastically for all of us. So many of us have had opportunities to get on the phone and connect with one another, to talk with friends and family that you might not have talked to in a long time. Or maybe you've tried out the new Zoom call, the new conference calling technology you can find on your phones and on your computers. And that's just one way that our normal routine or our normal ritual has changed. And the neat thing about it that I think most of us are finding, if you've explored that, is how wonderful it can be. I know for myself personally, doing pastoral care, in the past I've sometimes had challenges bringing families together or groups together, and I can see now in doing conference calls on the phone that I could easily implement that in the future to bring groups together. And again, it was a technology that has been there for a long time, but it's just something I hadn't thought of to use. And now I can see that after we get through this, that's a practice that I'll continue to use in the future. So I want to just have you take a look at that, have a look at your practices, take a look at your rituals, see what's the same, see what's changed, see how it's maybe brightened up your life or changed your life, and see how that's going to look moving forward. I think when we look at these things and name these things, it can be really helpful. It can be helpful so that we can have some stability in a time that's very unstable, and with those move forward into a new place, into a new realm. So thank you for joining me today. I look forward to connecting with you next week. And please don't forget to make your submissions to the Book of Hope this week. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.